To tip off this NBA season on FanDuel, you can choose your own rewards, which means you can play your game any way you want.
I get to choose my rewards?
Yep.
Great! Now, excuse me while I lock in.
All customers choose your own reward right now in the FanDuel app. 21 plus and present in select states. 18 plus in Kentucky. Opt-in required. Rewards are non-withdrawable. Restrictions apply, including bonus and token expiration, leg requirement, and max wager amount. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Hi there, and welcome again to the Explaining History podcast. And I'm going to do a sort of like an Iran roundup today, just to really kind of encapsulate where I think we're at the moment and what I think that implies, and to sort of draw a kind of a longer picture of American world power and the other powers that are kind of involved in the conflict. Before I do, I just want to talk about where we're at with Patreon. I don't know whether I'm reaching that point in life where technology is getting the better of me. I don't think it's me. I genuinely don't. I think Patreon is difficult to use. Verging on the basically impossible, and so as a result, lots of people aren't getting, I think, the content that they deserve. So I'm voting with my feet, and we're going to go over to Substack. Now there are issues with Substack, principally that they let Nazis on the platform. Which obviously, as you can imagine, like any decent civilized human being, I really don't want to share any digital space with Nazis. Thank you very much. But we are where we are, and hopefully the final I'm just going to say the final solution now. The final kind of answer to all of this is using the Explaining History website eventually to host premier content. But in the meantime, and I won't be doing this kind of right away, but in the next few weeks, we're going to sort of try to migrate as much as we can over from Patreon to Substack. Anything that you like on Patreon that you don't want to lose, download it, stick it in a file somewhere. Because I can't guarantee that some things might not go amiss in the move. What I hope to be able to do with Substack, and I'll put a link to join when we finally kind of knock Patreon on the head. What I hope to be able to do is create a really kind of lively, new curated news feed for you, which will be the podcast without a paywall. It will be video clips of me going on about stuff as I do, and also some exclusive deep dive posts about this, that, and the other. So yeah, I hope, and obviously going to keep the price just as it is. So hopefully that will work out quite nicely. But again, tech platforms are inherently, fundamentally dark institutions, and I want to have as little to do with as many of them as possible. But again, we are where we are. Anyway, let's talk about Iran. So it seems, I mean, this seems to be kind of like a year of hyperbole, of um, getting to places where you're saying things which seem pretty unprecedented and then become self-evidently true. But I think Iran has the possibility to be one of the kind of the epic foreign policy disasters of America, for the United States of America in the 21st century. Um, I think that the thing that John Mearsheimer describes as the escalation ladder that we saw in Vietnam um, is being kind of condensed from years into days. With Vietnam, there is some some kind of semblance of a strategy, however flawed, and there were some notions, sort of supposedly achievable objectives in Vietnam. The objectives in Iran, in this war in the Persian Gulf, if there were any objectives to begin with, um, I doubt very much that Trump was clear upon any of them. Um, so supposedly, Trump was advised by Netanyahu, by Jared Kushner, and by Steve Witkoff. None of them, with perhaps with the exception of Netanyahu, but none of his inner circle and his Hegseth character, none of them within Trump's inner circle really having any meaningful understanding whatsoever about Iran, about its capabilities, about its politics, and about the strength of nationalist sentiment. And almost every single last objective that that America under Trump might want to have achieved has now gone into reverse. Um, it appeared yesterday that Trump was trying to exit himself from the debacle. Um, he was sending out kind of messages that in his view, the war might now be concluded, it might be over, and that it could all kind of wind down. Um, he might find that this is not the view of the Israelis. Of course, even the most kind of amateurish international relations theorist could have told Trump that the goals of Israel are not going to be, as is the case with any nation, the goals of Israel are not going to be those of the United States. Israel has a need to create chaos within Iran, to weaken Iran for a generation, if not longer. And what emerges in Iran is of secondary interest, but a kind of an intercommunal civil war would be quite satisfactory. And the objectives of the United States, it would appear, would be multiple and contradictory. So there was firstly a belief, I think, that Trump believed that some kind of Venezuela type regime change could happen. Trump's always has an eye on reality TV always, and believes that the actions of the American military can be kind of subsumed to the needs of TV spectacle, hence the sinking of the Iranian ship off the coast of Sri Lanka. And when you consider the loss of life involved there, and the need for and the need that Trump had to create some kind of new sort of essentially outrageous news item. It really is quite an obscenity. Um, so Trump is operating on that level. I think he thought all of this could be done and dusted in 48 hours. America could look very impressive. He could look very impressive. And America's weakening position could be kind of concealed. Trump is if nothing, um, skilled and practiced when dealing with major Wall Street financiers in hiding weaknesses and presenting strengths. So he's a dab hand at all of that. But I do think he's looking for spectacle here. He listens to and agrees with normally the last thing he's heard. And he's often advised, because you have this kind of tier of, con artists and jailbirds and reality TV types and Fox News hosts who now run the government. That is the government of America. They are the people that tell Trump what he wants to hear, and then Trump believes them, acts upon it. But also, he's motivated by a kind of a certain kind of unbreakable venality. No doubt in his mind, there were opportunities to seize Iran's oil, sell it, and cream some money off the top for himself. And the thing that's motivating much of this, of course, is shutting China out of key parts of the world, Venezuela being one, the Persian Gulf being another. And this is the kind of the flailing moment of a dying imperium. This is where instead of working from a position of strength, this is coming from a position of insecurity and panic. The problem, of course, is that Trump didn't understand virtually anything about the opponent he was going up against. There seems to have been a kind of an almost complete absence of any kind of knowledge about Iranian capabilities and also Iranian mentalities. This is a fiercely independent country. I suppose all countries are, really. But Iran, like China, experienced kind of a quasi colonization during the 19th century. It falls into the sphere of the British for the most part. It was never formally colonized, but obviously it was occupied during the Second World War, and the Shahs of Iran were British puppets, and the returning Shah of Iran, who is hoping to set up his own squalid little monarchy. I think those hopes are for the birds, to be honest with you. Has gone on television recently. Reza Pahlavi has gone on TV recently and said, America, if you help me to get back into power in Iran, I will sell you at a knockdown rate $1 trillion worth of oil. I'll make your country very, very rich. And this is the kind of sort of idiotically incompetent stooge that the CIA from time to time likes to adopt. People that say, again, the quiet part out loud. But if you look at regime change, which is a word that Western journalists use as if it is, some kind of sanctified process. I mean, regime change can mean the removal of the Nazis from power, but regime change has generally tended to mean the removal of popular nationalists like Sukarno, like Allende, like Mossadegh. The problem here is that throughout the global South, people know all of this. People know that the regime change is really about placing pliant figures in charge who have been kind of incubated by the Washington D.C. and its allies for decades, and who will, once they are in charge.
There's an SUV that turns the unthinkable into the unforgettable. The new Nissan Pathfinder, built for big adventures and all that family chaos. It's powered by a strong V6 engine with a 9-speed automatic transmission. Inside, it's rugged and capable, but still premium and tech-forward, with room for up to 8 passengers. It's also available with 7-passenger seating and second-row captain's chairs. With massive hauling capability, now you can bring all the gear you and your family need for unforgettable adventures. The new V6 Nissan Pathfinder. Power your adventure.
On paper, kind of open up. We'll go through this process that the various media institutions will describe as opening up the country because it was so terribly closed off and repressed, and the country will also experience modernization, and all these lovely things will happen, and the country and its people will be returned to some kind of family of humanity that exists together in this kind of global postmodern hyper presence that we're all in. But of course, all of that is kind of nonsense, because what normally happens is that a Western friendly, fairly undemocratic figure comes to power, becomes an exceedingly undemocratic figure, and then allows the population and the natural resources of the country to be exploited in the interests of essentially of Wall Street. Maybe some other financial institutions around the world get a bit of a look in, but it's mainly Wall Street. So it is kind of a sanctified, a kind of a sort of tidied up version of the standard imperialism that has prevailed. And everybody knows this. Nobody is kind of blind to that. And the thing about Trump, again, as I said, that his great liability to America's elite classes is he can't help but say the quiet part out loud as well. I mean, when he's saying that he wants to decide who the next ruler of Iran is, and firstly, it must just be considered absolute absurdism in Iran. But secondly, the idea that Trump has the power to do that, and that Trump can project the power to do that, is starting to collide with hard reality. The question I posed the other day when the hostilities broke out, and I suspected I knew the answer, was whether the Iranians had abundant stockpiles of missiles. Turns out they do. Turns out they have lots of them. And the ability of Iran to control the Persian Gulf is uh, evidently there, without, of course, America committing to a Vietnam level deployment. America can't do this. America hasn't got, even though America has military funding for an army, an air force, a navy, and other institutions greater than basically any other country in the world. America doesn't have the industrial base, and won't. And even if it began to build it now, it would take at least a decade. It doesn't have the industrial base to dominate in the way that it once did. It doesn't have the industrial base that it had during the Second World War. During the neoliberal era, this was mothballed and killed off, and industry was outsourced overseas. So it doesn't have that. It doesn't have the political, the social contract required to institute conscription. It might have had that during World War II. It certainly doesn't have that, or didn't have that during the Vietnam era.
To tip off this NBA season on FanDuel, you can choose your own rewards, which means you can play your game any way you want.
I get to choose my rewards?
Yep.
Great! Now, excuse me while I lock in.
All customers choose your own reward right now in the FanDuel app. 21 plus and present in select states. 18 plus in Kentucky. Opt-in required. Rewards are non-withdrawable. Restrictions apply, including bonus and token expiration, leg requirement, and max wager amount. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
With the Venmo debit card, a taco in one hand, and ordering a ride in the other, means you're stacking your rewards. Nice. Get up to 5% cash back with Venmo Stash on your favorite brands when you pay with your Venmo debit card. From takeout to rideshares, entertainment, and more. Pick a bundle with your go-tos and start earning cash back at those brands. Venmo Stash Bundle terms and exclusions apply. See terms at venmo.me/stash terms. Max $100 cash back per month.
And the idea that you could get away with that now is seemingly unthinkable. The evisceration of America's social contract by mass inequality and by the kind of destruction of many strands of society makes it a lot harder to be able to ask or compel people to fight for their own country. This would be quite understandable for somebody to turn around and say, well, what country or whose country am I fighting for? Am I fighting for a country run by an oligarchic class? And this is a sentiment shared by the left in America. It was shared by the MAGA right as well. Some of the, not that I am a person who follows Marjorie Taylor Greene or Tucker Carlson, but some of the more interesting pronouncements actually come from them. I don't think for a moment that either of them have abandoned any of their basic, most unpleasant bigotries at all. And my suspicion is probably they sense that there is something to be gained from articulating some left populist sound bites. But the reason why they think that is because plenty of people within the MAGA base actually look at Israel killing tens of thousands of Palestinian children, and when they do see it at all, don't like it. Because ultimately, even though there are people out there that share totally different views and have often quite bigoted views towards immigration, there is a core of humanity that runs through most of them, if not all, and that's very hard to kind of snuff out. But and again, there is a certain kind of national self-interest that is articulated again between on the left and on the MAGA right of why are our tax dollars going to this country overseas that seemingly, whenever you hear about it, it's causing some sort of trouble. Even if you don't know very much about it, this small country in the Middle East that we pour all our resources into, that just seems to be waging endless wars, and always posing the threat of drawing America into its wars. Now, there's a lot to be said, questioned around, is the Israeli tail wagging the American dog, or vice versa. My genuine thought is that because Israel has been, for the most part, an American client state for most of its existence, that America holds most of the power, and can, if it chose to, and it has done in the past under Reagan in Britain and Reagan in America and Thatcher in Britain, can shut down Israeli actions, as Reagan and Thatcher together put the kibosh on Menachem Begin's invasion of Lebanon. So America does have that power. How compromised American lawmakers are, how compromised the American president is to compromat or whatever else, is kind of in the realm of speculation. I mean, perhaps we'll never know, but of course, on both sides of the aisle, AIPAC funds a majority of congressmen. But I mean, to come back to the point about what the future augurs here, I can see a future where America's strategic position in the Gulf states is blown, where the Iranians simply continue dropping missiles on Qatar, Bahrain, and the other Emirates, until they ask the Americans to leave. The American shipping in the Gulf will be consistently vulnerable from shore-based missile batteries, and eventually it will become very, very difficult for America to hold on in the Gulf. If America cuts and runs, it will leave Israel to face Iran alone. And here's where things get kind of more volatile. Of the two nuclear-armed powers, America and Israel, I see Israel more likely to deploy a nuclear weapon than America. And if it feels, more vulnerable, if it feels more at risk, then I think maybe we get into some really, really scary territory. But the Iranians would no doubt know that too. So I think there will be an overall weakening of America in the Gulf when this finally all comes to an end. I think also that there will be a weakening of Israel's position. And I think both Russia and China, as allies of Iran, who may well choose to resupply Iran with whatever it needs, particularly China. These powers may well be the direct beneficiaries of all of this. So at certain points, I mean, this may well prove to be America's Suez, this kind of tipping point after which world influence went into almost kind of inexorable decline. And my guess is we are at that kind of a point. And as far as it goes for Trump's domestic chances, I think all of this will have done them immeasurable damage. Anyway, I'm going to leave you there. If you'd like to hear this, I mean, we are going to be on Patreon for a little while longer. And so if you'd like to hear this ad-free, hop on over there. Actually, do you know what? Don't. I'm going to, because I can't even guarantee that I can get it to you that way. So I will let you know in the coming week or so when the Substack is up and running. I will post this on Patreon. Hopefully, someone can hear it ad free, but it is a kind of like a minefield. Anyway, take good care, everybody. All the very best. Bye bye.
When you walk into a Burlington, you're walking into amazing prices and great styles. That's main character energy. Because at Burlington, the wow deals aren't the only thing turning heads. Find fashion, the best brands, new trends, and so much more for every room in your house. Go ahead, you deserve these deals. But seriously, with these savings, why shop anywhere else?
Burlington deals, brands, wow.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Explaining History. This podcast is an independent production, and it's listener support that keeps these conversations going week after week. If you find value in the show and want to help cover the costs of research and production, please consider making a contribution. You can join our community on Patreon or make a one-off donation. Just follow the links in the show notes for this episode. Every bit of support is truly appreciated. Thanks again for listening.